Now, Ecuador presents interesting characteristics to study this complex scenario. It is a middle-income economy which generates a large amounts of garbage. And since 2008, the country also has a new constitution that puts a lot of emphasis on environmental and natural resource protection. However, in practice, we see that there is still limited progress in integrated waste management. There is very few information about the environmental and social impacts, and there is almost no information available about recycling rates and the potential for circular economy. So our project goal was then to analyze the current situation, to explore the potential for informal recyclers, and to support policy making related to circular economy. And for that purpose, we have studied two contrasting cases. There is one case in Cuenca in the Andes region, which is known for its good practice in integrated waste management, but there is limited experience in working with informal recyclers. And on the other hand, the other case is in Puerto Viejo in the coastal region, where there is an interesting organizational experience in working with recyclers cooperatives, but on the other hand, there is a disastrous waste management from an environmental and a health perspective. And then I would like to give the word to my colleague Fernanda Solis in Ecuador, who will explain the multi-stakeholder institutional context and the participatory approach of the project.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon for most of you. As Mark already said, my name is Maria Fernanda Solis. I am the Health Area Dean in Universidad Andina Simón Bolívar at the Public Health Faculty, and I am the local coordinator of the project. After 4 years of hard working, actually, it's really difficult to summarize everything in 10 minutes, so I'll try to present like the most significant achievements we have got. The first issue we would like to present to you is this multi-stakeholder involvement, because in Ecuador it's really an achievement. And through this BLIR project, we were able to work together from the academy with Cauluven, Universidad Andina, and Universidad de Cuenca, also with a lot of civil society movements and organizations, starting by the National Network of Recyclers, but also with international and regional networks of recyclers and zero waste movements. And actually, during this project, we were able to start this coalition or network for Zero Waste Alliance in Ecuador. We were also able to work with the government in the national level, but also in local levels, with the environmental ministry, with also the National Institute for Statistics and Census. With them, we work providing the new statistic model to analyze all the data about the generation and the conditions of treating the waste. And of course, in this multi-stakeholder action, we were able to work thanks to this approach, this methodological approach, participatory action research, that it's maybe one of the most important issues we would like to emphasize. Participatory action research, as you know, has been growing in Latin America since the 70s. And it's important since we are working with these communities of recyclers that have been most of the time treated or mistreated with violence and negligence from the state. So here you have some pictures of the work we have been doing in Puerto Viejo and Cuenca. This is the Recyclers Association, 17 de septiembre in Puerto Viejo. And in these 4 years, we have been working with them closely. The other thing we would like to emphasize is these popular and academic publications. We were able to produce at least 10 books during these 4 years, and most of them are academics, but another important amount of books are also popular publications that were used for the training process with the recyclers movement. As you know, in the middle of the project, we got this COVID crisis, and it forced us to make some changes, especially strengthening the training process in public health and in laboral or occupational health. So here you can see some of the publications. We also were able to advise and assess national, local, and regional governments around public policy in zero waste public policy and circular economy public policy. The pictures you are seeing here, it's the events we organize when we have the elections for majors, and we were able to ask them important questions and to ask them to have a zero waste public policy in Quito, Cuenca, and Puerto Viejo. But we were also able to assess the assembly during the discussion of the law of circular economy and inclusive recycling. There is one of the members of the alliance that was participating in the circular economy debate, but there were lots of our members that participate. We were also able to participate in the design of some of the manuals, the white book for circular economy, and also the manual for composting organic waste. And an important achievement is that we were able to work with National Statistic and Census Institute to provide the national instrument to get information year by year about the conditions that each local government is seeking. That we have 221 cities reports to this national institute. So now we have this atlas of waste that was published in 2020, but will be continued published each year. Actually, yesterday we have another meeting with the state to design the next publication of this atlas of waste. I don't know if you have heard about this, but we were also able to advise public policy internationally, since Ecuador actually is facing a very important threat. United States is exporting their waste to Ecuador. Ecuador is the third country in the world that is receiving the most amount of plastic waste from United States. In China in 2018 said no more. China is not longer the dump of the United States and North America. So now Ecuador is the new dump, the new space or sacrifice territory. So we published research, a very strong research denouncing these conditions. And this research was presented in United Nations and in very important media in the world. Actually, as I already told you, we were able to contribute in the strengthening of some alliance networks and coalitions. But one of our big achievements is that now we have this alliance, Basura Cero Ecuador, that is a network where academies, social and civil organizations, the ecologist movements and the recycling movement are participating and generating public policy research and are working with these organizations in all the country. So this network is working and it's still very active. We have been working also and specifically with local, national, and regional recyclers network, specifically with Puerto Viejo and Cuenca, but also with Ecuador and Latin American recyclers. And basically, we are supporting the four main concerns that they have and the four demands that they have, and you can find them there: right to territory, right to means of production, certain and safe access to garbage as nature and common, and remuneration for the service provided. Here you have some pictures. These pictures are part of one of the publications that was one of the most important books we produced. That is the Recycling Without Recyclers is Garbage, the Return of the Witches. Finally, since I told you with the COVID pandemic, we needed to make some changes, and we established a system of diagnosis and epidemiological monitoring. Since we are I represent the public health area in my institution, and we have a lot of epidemiologists studying in our university. So we start with this system. Right now we have a strong system with different measures in time, and this system was important to develop the improvement of working conditions and occupational health. We were able to provide, can you please help me, Michaela, with video? We were able to provide uniforms. to the cycles during the COVID, because the first year of the COVID was especially complicated for them. And we were able also to provide humanitarian aid, especially food. And here you can see a little bit of how they're working. They work in an open air dump. Right now we don't have cows or other animals because it's forbidden, but we still have children working there. We still have families working and living there. So here you can see some of the uniforms we provide, and they were really important. Actually, we provide uniforms 2 times. The first one just like normal uniforms, and the second time they were specifically for working in the pandemic conditions, so masks and gloves and this face issues to prevent the eyes to get damaged. And we provide transportation means, so they were able to transport the material in these special cars. So then it will be an improvement of the labral disease, especially in bones and articulations. And it's not working, Michaela, is it possible to help me? Thank you. So we developed this health training process in health and in human rights. So you can see here, sorry, it's getting in the other side. So in the health process, it was 1.5 years of workshops. And as you can see here, we had a big participation, and this health training was not just locally. We were able to certificate 600 of recyclers in our university. So now they have their title of local health promoters. We use free softwares, and the information is anonymous but public. So you don't have the names, but it's like free access. So you can take decisions and you can know who is vaccinated, who is sick. So we can take appropriate health decisions. And finally, this green center that it has been a dream of a lot of years. This is not founded by the Blair funds, but was also possible with this Blair project, since we started the design, the workshops, and looking for more funds in the middle of this process. So finally, the recyclers have a green center, so they can put all the materials they recycled there, and we will buy some equipment so they can process and sell all the material in better conditions. And then we expect to avoid infectious disease, because right now they put all the materials in their houses. So we have a lot of dengue, Zika, chikungunya, and all those diseases are affecting most of the recycling population. So to finish, I would like to introduce Magali Briones. She is the leader of the Asociación de Recicladores 17 de septiembre, and she will tell, like in 3 minutes, what has the project represent for them. So Micaela, it's the next video. Yes, thank you so much.
Yo principalmente les agradezco por todas las colaboraciones que hemos tenido, como son los talleres, los uniformes que también nos vinieron, los trajes de bioseguridad y los kits alimenticios, todo en sí lo que nos han apoyado. Y como estamos también por construir lo que es el centro de acopio. En los triciclos son 63 triciclos para 63 familias, pero en realidad somos más de 63 familias, pero se le va a dar a la mayoría. Y el centro de acopio, bueno, lo hemos ido plasmando poco a poco entre todos los compañeros, porque es un sueño de todos, no solo de uno. Cada uno iba poniendo su granito de arena como lo quería ver en un futuro, y así empezamos haciendo cada pedacito de lo que es el plan. Uno sugería una cosa, el otro otra, y así para lograr el plano como todos lo querían. Bueno, el empezar a construir, dice usted, más bien sería ya poner la primera piedra desde el día de mañana, que estamos 18, sí, 18, empezaríamos a ver la construcción, lo que es el plano formal, con todos los compañeros. Y así ya empezar de poco a poco, esperemos que para de aquí a febrero del 2022 ya lo que es el centro de acopio. Bueno, la mayoría sí está contento de que seamos un centro de acopio donde ellos puedan acopiar su material reciclable, donde también se pueda comprar definitivamente a todos los compañeros y también comprar a las personas que lleguen de afuera también. Porque en sí lo que todos queremos es progresar en unión, no solamente para uno. Nos ha servido de mucho, a mí me ha servido muchísimo para cuidar nuestra salud, saber cosas que uno no sabía, qué debe hacer en su casa, cómo debe cuidarse, todas esas cosas nos sirvió de bastante. Bien, es bueno que sí se negaron algunos compañeros que dijeron que ya ellos no necesitan que les hagan esa encuesta, que es muy cansada, que bueno, pero la mayoría sí facilitaba lo que es los datos. Todo. Muy atentos ellos en todo lo que uno les preguntaba, siempre estuvieron respondiendo. Bueno, a todos los compañeros se les va a entregar una funda de alimento a cada uno, por familia también a cada socio comunitario, porque también hay personas que está la esposa y está el esposo, y a los que están así solo se les entregará uno por familia. Tenemos lo que es la primera piedra de lo que es el galpón, todas esas cosas, y entrega de los carritos que faltaban entregar, que son 42.
Sorry, I think the video is too slow and it's hard to understand. So maybe we should stop there, Micaela. Maybe it's better. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you. So now the Cuenca team will go on with the next issues of the presentation.
Thank you, Fernanda. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dolores Ocañay. And now I will talk about another part of the project that focuses on understanding and assessing the dynamics of the waste management system in Cuenca. For this, we use the life cycle assessment methodologies. We focus in the assessment of the social impacts mainly, because usually those are not taken in account when we are trying to plan some strategies and some projects in the city. So we implement the social life cycle assessment to evaluate the social impacts of the recycling system in Cuenca, emphasizing the recyclers' activities such as collection, transportation, pre-processing, and commercialization. This part of the project was aligned with the call for road testing, the new SLCA guidelines by the United National Environmental Program. The recycling system in Cuenca works under two modalities. The first one that we call it a mixed recycling modality. The blue bags are collected by the municipality public cleaning company, MAC, and then are transported to a warehouse, and two associations of recyclers will sort and clean the materials, and then after they sell it. In the second modality, recyclers walk through the city collecting recyclable materials directly from the black and also the blue bags, which are outside of the houses. It's worth to mention that the payment for the work in both modalities come from the sales of the collecting material. We assess two stakeholders, workers, which entail the associated and not associated recyclers, and the local community. For workers, we assess a total of 12 subcategories, such as fair salary, child labor, social benefits, etc. And for local community, 9 subcategories, such as local employment, secure living condition, community engagement, etc., were assessed. We use primary and secondary data to perform the assessment. In the table, you can see an example of the results for the first salary subcategory. As you can see, most of the assessed indicators reflect that they are below the compliance level regarding our reference scales, which were built in applicant regulation, best practice, and basic social expectation. The results of the social life cycle assessment pilot reveal several critical points that, for the time that we have in this presentation, I can show you all of them. But in the social hotspots, we identified that the collection activity encompassed the most social problems. For instance, 5 out of every 10 recyclers faced social discrimination and injuries. But to the results of the assessment will be an input for the decision and the policy-making process. This needs to be accessible and understandable. For this, with the team, we developed a dashboard to present the results in a very didactic way, as you can see in the slide. Here, you can see the indicator income of recyclers, and you can see that is starkly below compliance level. That means that is below 150 euros, which means that the recycler income fall below the median of the salary distribution of the workers that perceive less than 394 in Ecuador. And also in the dashboard, you can see the stakeholder assessed, the modality, and the subcategory that the indicator below. And now we are going to see a video of Rosito Yawari, which is one of our recyclers here in Cuenca. And then after, Paul will continue the presentation with the other parts of these activities.
Aquí son los que llegan a las tiendas y nosotros buscamos el material para poder tener algo en el día y ganarnos algo para poder sustentar a nuestra familia. Pedir a toda la ciudadanía, a los amigos, a los compañeros, a las personas que nos respeten primeramente por la dignidad de nuestro trabajo y que clasifiquen bien, por favor, eso es porque ese es el sustento de nuestros hogares para poder mantener a nuestros hijos.
Okay, thank you, Lori. I will now continue with the description of the waste management system that we have evaluated in Cuenca. As Lori mentioned, my colleague from the University of Cuenca mentioned, we want to understand the whole waste management system, but taking into account mainly the social aspect. It means having the recyclers, the informal recyclers, the base recyclers, as we call it, in the center of the study. That, of course, poses a lot of challenges. We not only focus on that, of course, on the social aspect, but also on the environmental and the economic aspects of the waste management system. For that, we face some challenges, but I think one of the main challenges was the amount of data that we have, the amount of validated data that we can use to elaborate our studies. That's the same for the environmental and the economics, but it's more critical for the social aspects, where we have to develop instruments to collect the information and also the whole methodology to do this collection of information as well. We start with a systematic collection of data for the environmental and for the social aspects, and we start building diagrams as the one that I will show you in the next slide, if it passes. Yeah, this is of course a complex diagram. I don't want you to see and to follow all the arrows, but I want to show you how we were able to build diagrams from all the processes in the waste management system. The diagram that you have in front of you now is a diagram that is tracking all the organic waste, which represents in Cuenca around 70% of the total waste management. We have a biogas plant, which I take advantage of the organic waste to generate electricity in our city, and is a landfill that is controlled, that has been awarded with some prizes. Anyhow, there are a lot of inefficiencies that we were able to identify while collecting this data. in Cuenca. We have a landfill that is working properly, but still we lack a lot of information to do a proper evaluation, environmental and social evaluation of the impact that this type of processes have in the city. So the main task that we were tackling at the beginning of the project was to try to develop methodologies and to collect the information and the data to be able to process and to evaluate the environmental and the social aspects. I'm giving now an example of the environmental part where we have all the flows of materials identified, characterized, to be able to then quantify the environmental impact of that. Yeah, there is some delay. Yeah, we have some outcomes, and the outcomes are in different levels. Of course, we want publications. Of course, we want scientific articles for our university, but also we want to have some impact in the society. And for that, we combine different approaches to communicate the results that we have achieved. For instance, we have some publications in the media. There are two, actually, the most popular newspapers in the city, which have been following our research. And the idea is to create some critic view in the population, in the citizens, about researchers and about how the social and the environmental aspects are being evaluated by the university. As well, we try to give back all the results and the studies to the researchers, actually the center of our study. So we develop workshops together with them. We make them also speak and be listened by authorities at the local level, at the national level, and we translate this social life cycle assessment, for instance, which is quite technical, to manuals that can be graphical, that can be understandable more easily for the people that are in the center of our study, the researchers. We also have, and we are proud of it, once we have been working with the results of these studies, we developed some workshops together with the researchers to see what are the solutions, possible strategies that can really help them to improve the living conditions that they have. And there, one idea was to develop an app, an application that can be used to connect the citizens and the researchers. For that, we are working with another university and with an NGO to develop this app. And this is something that we can touch, something that we can change the lives of the researchers. Yep. We also were able to work together with the researchers and together with the public municipality in the city to write new proposals, new projects. This is one of them. We now are working now with the cooperation from Switzerland and with the Ministry of Environment in Ecuador to build a circular economy plan for electronics together with the researchers. This is actually something that we are very proud that we were able to foster new projects within this REAR project. Yeah. We also have, of course, publications, scientific articles, we have book chapters, we have been able also to make some workshops. I like this picture because here we have the lady that is close to me, is the Minister of Environment in that time. And yeah, she was able to participate in the workshop and to hear some suggestions for policymakers. So that was very nice to have that opportunity. Yeah, there is some delay with the slide. I'm trying to pass it. I don't know if Michaela, you can help me to the next slide because I cannot do it anymore. Yes, thank you. We were also able to have some more projects. Here is a slide that summarizes projects from international funding and local funding that we were able actually to achieve, to get through this REAR project implementation. I will try to pass it again. And we were also able to generate two programs within the university. The one is already launched, is the Master in Sustainable Development and Circular Economy at the University of Cuenca. This is one of the nice outcomes that we have from the project. And we are finalizing the first version of the review for a doctorate, for a PhD program, also related with population and sustainability. That is also a nice outcome of the project that we have been developing in the REAR project. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will pass now the floor to my colleague Simon, the Flemish co-promoter.
Good afternoon or good morning if you are joining from Ecuador. So this actually concludes already the first part of our community talk. But as you probably understand, well, there's much more output. There are many more experiences to be shared. But we decided to limit the presentation to, well, our time was actually to 30 minutes, and we more or less succeeded in that, as we wanted to have like enough time for a discussion. So we will start in a minute with the questions which were already raised via the chat during the presentations. But of course, feel free to ask additional questions. You can do so in two ways, actually. You can type your question in the chat, or you can just raise your hand. You can also do that just by clicking on the button, and then there's you can click on raise hand, and then we will give you the floor. Of course, after we have answered to the questions in the chat. Now, maybe important to mention, I have the feeling that we will be unable to address all the questions you might have, as we really want and need to stick to our 1 hour limit. So if that happens, if you have questions which are, remain unanswered, you can always contact us via the email. Our email address is actually on the slide. So we will keep on showing the slide for a while so you can take note of it. In any case, this community talk is also recorded, so the video will be online, if I'm not mistaken, on the VLEER-US website for a while. Just click on Community Talks in the VLEER-US homepage, and then on the upper right corner, if I'm not mistaken, and you can click on Community Talks. And it will be also made available on YouTube via the VLEER-US channel. So you can always look at these slides again afterwards, and then you can find our email address as well. So, but time to start with the first questions, actually, and I see there were two questions by Stefan Temperman, if I'm not mistaken. The first one is related to the extended producer responsibility, and the question is actually, any extended producer responsibility legislation, is it already in place in the areas which we discussed? And the second question, I'll read it out loud immediately, because it may be more or less related. Do you have a fiscal or legal frame for waste pickers in your country? For instance, I can waste pickers issue invoices. So maybe this is a good question, to answer by Fernanda, and maybe Paul and Lily can take in if they want to add something. So. Fernanda, if you can, I'm not sure if she's still online.
Yes, I am.
Great. So the first question was about the extended producer responsibility schedules, if it's still, if it's available in Quito, Cuenca, or in the whole Ecuadorian region.
Sorry, Simon, I was not able to hear you. Could you please repeat the question?
Of course. So the question was, is there an extended producer responsibility scheme available in the regions that we considered?
Actually, there is not like a standard, but there are different local and national law projects. In national levels, you have ordinance, and in the national level, you have an organic law, and in national level, you have ordinance, but there's not like a common standard for that.
Okay, but I think the question was about the EPR schemes, so not the standard as such. So the question was, is there like a legislation nationwide or in a region where producers are maybe they have to take back all products that they put on the market, so there's a take back obligation, and make sure that they are get rid of in the proper ways. There's some legislation related to that, for instance.
Yes. Actually, that's what I was saying, because the new organic law, the circular economy and inclusive recycling law, it has one article about that, but it was just approved days ago. And it's the first law that it's introducing that concept. It was in the law reglement in our Ministry of Environment, but it was not being applied. And actually some municipal governments, some local cities, also they have that proposal in their local laws that it's called ordinance. That is the way how you organize the waste management in each local municipality. But it's the first time we are going to have this concept and this responsibility in a national organic law. This law, I told you, it was approved just a couple days or weeks ago.
Okay, and then the second part of the question by Stefan, is there, it's already partly answered. So it was about the legal frame for waste pickers in Ecuador, and can they issue invoices and things like this, or how is it evolving?
Yes, actually in Latin America, the context is very complicated, but it's changing. You can find some countries where recyclers already have strong laws that protect them and that also pay them for their work and service. For example, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, some of the cities, and in Colombia, all the cities are already recognizing their work and paying for their work. In Ecuador, the inclusive recycling law was actually now included as part of the other law, the circular economy law, and it's in the middle of the process of being implemented. But there, that law conceives the necessity to pay and recognize the work of the recyclers. You have different initiatives in different cities. Some of them are already recognizing the work that recyclers do, and they're paying small amounts of money to recognize the work they have been doing and the effects that they are avoiding to the municipalities, since they avoid the use of territory to put some more waste in there, but they are also avoiding the emissions of CO2 to the atmosphere and also the lixiviates. I forgot the word in English. So they are recognizing the importance of the recyclers' work, and they are paying small amounts, but it's not a national policy yet. But we hope that with the new law, we would be able to implement like nationally and not just like in these isolated cases in different cities.
Okay, great. Maybe since Stefan added something later on in the chat, maybe Stefan, if you can use your audio, it may be easier that you clarify what you wanted to say there, if it's possible for you.
Yeah, sure. I think Paul wanted to complement with something.
Okay.
He's raising his hand. Yes.
I see. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Fernanda, and thank you, Simon. Yeah, I just want to add maybe a couple of additional information. As Fernanda says, we have been working in this national law, which will compile all different regulations. Anyhow, we have experience with EPR in a couple of products. One of the products that we have experienced is actually the tires of the vehicles. It's one of the good examples, as the minister called it, in Latin America. There we have some responsibility already of the companies that manufacture or import the tires to the country, and they have the responsibility to collect them and to treat them appropriately. There is a scheme of certificates that you have to use, and that is linked with the amount of tires that you then are allowed to produce or to import. And then you have a register of all the national tires that have been introduced, treated, and where are they. Still, we have a lot to improve, of course, over there, and there is work with the municipalities in how to connect and to collaborate in the collection and in the proper treatment. There are also some deficiencies, technological deficiencies, to treat and to use better the materials of the tires, but there is an experience that has been in place for several years. There are companies specialized that are formed by the importers or the producers in Ecuador that are only in charge of managing the system. That's something that has been in place in Ecuador, and this is some of the examples that we have in the region of an implementation of EPR that now is in the new laws, of course, being amplified at a national level for all the other elements. The other example is, of course, PET. There is a task about 2 cents per bottle that you can receive. If you give the bottle, that's an incentive, of course, to collect. That's why you don't really see a lot of PET bottles in the streets. And of course, now with the new law, one of the first streams that they want to implement with EPR is the electronic waste, actually. And they have been working with some targets already. They are thinking about the white goods first, refrigerators, I mean, and all those things, big ones. And this is something that has been elaborated quite a bit. They have already a proposal for some targets and how the scheme will work. And that is the current state of affairs here in the country. Maybe that's good to know for Stefan, in which streams we have some experience and in which one we are now prioritizing for the implementation. I don't know, maybe Loli want to comment something about the recyclers associations and the simplified scheme to have some invoices there, or I do it?
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, because
maybe for the second question of Stefan, yeah, they cannot generate an invoice, but there is a law, call it the popular economy here, that allows, if the recyclers are associated, so they have an association and is recognized legally, they can access to some, to have contact with the public sector actually, in a simplified way. So they don't have to follow all the strict rules that a company has to do, but they could be hired and they could give some documents to prove that they are giving a service. That is allowed in the law now, not only for recyclers, of course, but for all people, handcraft, that they can just associate and then they will be able to provide services to the public sectors, to the state actually. And that's a way in there that they can actually give the services. Not really an invoice, they have a simplified version of that, but they could do it. The idea, as Fernanda was mentioning, is to exploit a little bit more this law and maybe to improve it, of course, to allow them to have more rights and to provide more service in a simplified way. But maybe that I can also comment on that second question of Stefan.
Okay, Stefan, I hope
maybe,
this,
yes, maybe just try to add that we are trying to propose ways not to be known as a commodity, but as a common good. Since if you put it like commodity in Latin America is really dangerous, since the private enterprise is going to ask for the possibility to get to manage it. That's why we are trying to, especially since we have more than 20,000 recyclers, families of recyclers in Ecuador, to propose it not as a commodity, just to add that. That's why it's complicated, since you have to commercialize it, but since you are asking it to be a common good for recyclers movement, demanding just social justice and ecologist justice, we are not able to put it as a commodity. With the transitions from commodities to common goods, otherwise water, food should be known as commodities, and then it's really complicated, because you lose the possibility to make them recyclers of priority for using waste.
very interesting discussion. Unless you have unless it's not clear, Stefan, just let us know. But I propose that we have a look at the next question. Next question is from Andrea, if I'm not mistaken. The question is, did you work also with the neighborhood or with local schools, for instance?
Should I start?
Yes, if you can, Fernanda.
Yes, I think there were like two questions connected. The first one asking about the local schools and neighborhoods, and the other one working with young people, especially child and teenagers. And actually, yes, we have a big project of working with the schools and high schools and young people. So basically what we have been doing is working especially with the children of the recyclers, but now with just them, but also with the neighborhoods around the recyclers communities. So yes, it's important. They provide a lot of efforts. The schools are very committed to these environmental educations in political ecology of waste. So yes, we have been working with them, and it has been a good experience, since they are always very hopeful to be part of this process. Specifically in Puerto Viejo, I'm saying.
Okay.
We work with Fe y Alegría school. That's the school we work with.
Okay, thank you, Fernanda. If it's okay, I will go immediately to the next question, because we only have 10 or 11 minutes left. Collins from Kenya asked, what is the position of young people in this, the youth and children to be specific? Yeah, maybe I think it's also a question maybe for Fernanda, if you can start.
Yes, actually, well, we have tried to work with them, trying to assume the responsibility that they have into the waste issues and the possibilities that they have to transform their responsibility. So, for example, starting house composting in each house, but also in each school, and also recycling possibilities, but giving the recycling materials to the recyclers associations. So they are committed. I could say the position of the schools and the children, it's basically a committed position. Sometimes it's hard to discuss with them more deep issues about this problem because we are facing a very complicated project. We know that even recycling and composting is not enough, that we need a radical change of model, but at least we are trying to start with them in composting initiatives and recycling initiatives. At these schools, we are surrounded in this neighborhood of recyclers.
Okay, thank you, Fernanda. Maybe, yeah, more general question, and maybe if it's okay, Mark can try to answer this one. Fatia asked, can I give the same project in another country, for instance, Morocco? Very interesting question. Maybe not an easy answer, of course.
Yeah, because I do not have field experience in Morocco. But I think why wouldn't it be possible to work on a similar topic? Of course, I do not have a concrete idea of what is the waste management situation. But that is, of course, that is what you have. That's how we have to start as well in Ecuador, of course, to gain more information, to have more specific information, to get in touch and in contact with all the relevant stakeholders, to see what is really the position of the recyclers. Is there? I imagine that as well in Morocco, because in many of low-income countries, you have huge numbers of families surviving on recycling activities. So I guess that will be a reality in Morocco as well. So then it's a question also to see, are they organized? Are there already associations or networks? How can we work together with them? What are their priorities? So yes, I think so, because of course this shift that we see from more linear to a more circular economy, as we presented it, that is a global shift that is on the one hand that is needed, that is necessary, but that is also taking place also globally, I would say. Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you for this answer. Maybe a question for the Cuenca team. Next one is actually from Marcela Santos, and she says, great project. Have you worked with groups of recyclers or other citizens to use something with recycled things? Interesting question as well. Maybe a little business.
Yeah, maybe I can start and then Paul.
Yeah, Dolly, please, your time now. Yes.
And Paul will continue this. Actually, one of the projects that we were able to launch with this project was the rescue project. This project tried to work with the electrical and electronic waste in order to develop this kind of business together with the EMAC, the municipal cleaning company here in Cuenca, in order to create this business, and the recyclers will be integrated in this business in order to have some, to first collect this dangerous waste and also to do something with this. So yeah, we are working with this, and maybe Paul, you can comment a little bit more.
Yes, of course. Yeah, as Dolly already mentioned, this project of e-waste recycling is well, it's not recycling. Then I have to correct myself. It's about circular strategies for e-waste. Actually, the idea is to try to implement added value activities for electronic equipment that are at the end of life. That means that we not only want to separate the materials to have the precious metals, for instance, that is something that can be done, and that there's a possibility because there is a high concentration of precious metals, but also to try to repair them. One of the nicest things that we have here, and that we still have here, is that people are still used to repair things. There is the need to buy low price equipments to try to close the gap, the technology gap, it means. So we are still in a phase that we think that we can be able to provide services to repair. Is not going to be too uncommon for people that still is used to do that in general terms here, and how in that way we can improve and add more value to these equipments. That means the circular economy strategies that we want to implement for e-waste will not only be of environmental benefit, but also will create jobs for people that can be taught to how to repair these things, and can at the same time provide a service to have more accessible infrastructure, technological infrastructure, computer, etc., to close the digital gap that we still have here in countries like Ecuador. So that's a very nice connection that we try to do in this project, but still the social aspects, these recyclers are in the center, how we can make them add the value and get the benefits, or some of the benefits at least, of these ideas of the circular economy. Maybe that I would like to highlight from this project, Loli.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, the next question was again on the EPR, but I think this was already solved by the previous discussion. So maybe we can go to the question by Hitus and Tonga. So it's about behavioral change and the fact that it's very difficult to change behavior. And the question is, so in your activities, what awareness activities work best in changing behavior? What is, yeah, of course, not easy. Maybe Fernanda, if you can start with answering this question.
Yes, I just wanted to add something before, because someone was asking about this waste trade and eco taxes. Actually, I want to say that in Ecuador, waste trade is not legal. We signed the Basilian Convention and also the two additional laws to forbid waste, plastic waste importation, but also other waste importation, dangerous waste. But it is still going on, even when we have strong laws against it. Because and actually the worst part is that it's been possible with this circular economy speech, because they are saying that the waste that we are bringing from United States is also raw material, so that can be used for recycling. So just to answer about this question about eco taxes, like, it's not just that we don't have taxes for that, but it should be forbidden. And about the behavior, yes, it takes time, but it takes less time than what we thought. The problem in Ecuador is that when some cities already have, for example, politics for separating materials in 3 different types, organic, inorganic, and recyclable. You can have that for 4 years, and then you have a change of mayor, and when the next mayor comes, the projects can finish because he doesn't want to keep with the separation process, and then the behaviors change. So we don't have a continuation or a big policy that continues beyond the majors, and that's the main problem in Ecuador for changing behavior. We need like a national public policy, so it won't be changing like from major to major, from city to city. For example, you go to Galapagos and there you have to separate your waste. But then you go to Quito, and in Quito you don't separate anywhere. So how you commit the citizens' behavior if everything is changing from territory to territory and from year to year? So I think the main threat to change the behaviors is that in Ecuador specifically. But it takes time, but not as much time as we think it would take.
Okay, I see that we are almost out of time, so maybe time for one very last question. In any case, I would like to thank Rudy for his long comment, very interesting, and also Stefan for the additional link that you provided. So yeah, the one question we still can answer is one here. The question is, do you think that this is manageable in developing countries like Ethiopia as well. It's a bit related to the other question that we had about the other countries. So I'm not sure if anybody wants to answer this one first. Is there any volunteer? Mark, are you?
Yeah, maybe to add, well, of course, Ethiopia, as far as we know it, there has been quite some rigorous cooperation with Ethiopia. And by that way, we receive quite some information also on the very difficult and complicated situation at this moment. And so I think for whatever project or initiative, you will have to take that into account. But on the other hand, what I wanted to add is also that, of course, there are international alliances and international movements also of recyclers and zero waste. And so what we know, for instance, they are organized not only on the Latin American level, and maybe Fernanda can add to this because she knows even more about that international movement, but also in Africa and in Asia, there are movements and organizations of recyclers. And so I think if you would start up, please get in touch with those international movements, because I think that they can support you a lot also to start up at the national and at the local level, the activities that are needed for that. Maybe Fernanda, you can add something more specifically that you know about the situation in Africa?
It's different in each country, but as you said before, there is a big movement, and you have a zero waste movement and a Gaia coalition there, with a lot of the waste speakers being part of that movement. In most of the countries, we still have open air dumps, just as in Latin America. And even when the waste pickers and networks are strong, they are also facing a lot of difficulties against private enterprise and the lack of support of the state. I think we have similar context in Latin America, actually. And also, of course, environmental impacts in the communities that are surrounded.
Okay, unfortunately, it's time. But okay, we almost were able to answer all questions, but not all, unfortunately. So please do contact us, send us an email, and then we can continue on discussing. That's what we love to do. So don't hesitate to contact us, and we will hopefully we're glad to answer your questions that you still have, of course, or to start a discussion with you. So thank you very much for attending today's session, and hopefully we can see each other in the future in online or in a conference in person later on, or in the country. So thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon or nice working day if you're in Latin America. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks
bye.
all. Thanks all for attending, and
Thanks
also for
all.
the great presentations. Very good.
Very interesting, very inspiring. Thank you very
Yes.
much to the
Thank you
project
so much.
team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.